The first two episodes of The Captain were really enjoyable for me as a Yankees fan, but I wasn't sure if it was on that Last Dance level of great documentary storytelling. But these two episodes tonight, episodes 3 and 4, may have reached that for me. These two episodes, which covered from the 1999 season where the Yankees win their third championship, the one against the Atlanta Braves, all the way to July 2004, the famous or infamous flip game. The big part of this episode was the Jeter A-Rod stuff. We got the actual audio of the infamous comments that A-Rod made in Esquire that led to this whole feud. Comments that were kind of mostly positive until the end, where he starts talking about how, you don't play the Yankees, you don't try to beat Jeter, you try to beat Bernie, you try to beat Paul O'Neill, you don't try to beat Jeter. Which may have been true, but maybe not the right thing to say about your best friend. So that was maybe kind of messed up there. And then Jeter admitting that actually those weren't the quotes that ended our relationship. It was kind of after the Dan Patrick show, when Dan Patrick had, when he asked A-Rod about Jeter's contract, and he talked about how A-Rod was talking about how he's way better at Jeter than in almost everything. That's really what killed their relationship there. So I thought that was very, very interesting to hear that. And again, but to actually hear the audio of, this was just a magazine article, to actually hear the audio of A-Rod talking about making his Esquire comments, that was crazy, and I could not believe that someone held on to that. So I thought that was very interesting. In the end of episode 3, where Jeter, A-Rod, and the writer, who was of the Esquire writer who wrote those down, are all talking about that and what the end of the relationship and what that all meant. That was very, very riveting stuff. And, for years we've had all these rumors and theories about Jeter and A-Rod's relationship, and it was great to see it all come out there. So I really, really enjoyed that. Some other things that stood out from this episode, they talk about how when Clemens went to the Yankees in '99, and how, the Yankees were already this great team, now they add Roger Clemens to it, and how, Jeter enjoyed that. He didn't have a great relationship with Clemens at the beginning, because Clemens always hit at him, but it went away when Clemens joined the Yankees. They talked about the infamous Yankees-Mariners brawl, where Chad Curtis had a fight with Jeter on the field. Chad Curtis, of course, a horrible scumbag of a human being. No one cares what he has to say about this. And then, of course, tried to fight Jeter in the locker room. A coward. Jeter talking about admitting that he has trust issues. That it's hard for him to, he's not the kind of person who, once you lose it, you can't really gain it back. But I thought that was interesting, Jeter talking about some of his flaws. Then we got to the 1999 ALCS, the face the Red Sox. Nomar talked about how, Nomar made the comment about how we weren't the better team, we just didn't play well enough, and Jeter cuts back to Jeter right after that and goes, "That's what losers say." So that was just fantastic. Jeter had some really savage quotes throughout this documentary. Some of them are on the Jordan Last Dance level. But yeah, he shows that 99 ALCS, Yankees run through the Red Sox. They have the 1999 World Series highlights set to That's Life by Frank Sinatra, which I thought was great. Yankees run through that. Fun story in there about how Derek Jeter popped his belly button when he fell on New Year's Eve in New York City. That was certainly an interesting story. Jeter admitting that he had a hard time enjoying himself when he played. Not surprising, considering he was just always focused on the next thing. Then we get to the 2000 Yankees, talks about how they fell apart at the end of the second half of the season, which, my gosh, Yankees Twitter would have absolutely erupted at that. But then they go on to beat the A's after Eric Chavez has some quotes about how it's our time, and the Yankees just beat them in Game 5 of that series. The Yankees took on the A's in back-to-back ALDSs, which was kind of interesting to remember. I also liked hearing how cocky the Yankees were. Mariano and Tino talking about how we knew they were better than that. We knew we were better than them. And seeing all these guys talk about it, and especially Jeter, because we never really got that publicly. I never felt like the Yankees were a publicly cocky team. So it was nice to hear that in this documentary. Them talking about it. They go on and they beat the Mariners. They have, of course, set that up for the Subway Series. The highlights to that are set to Black Rob, a song by Black Rob, I think Whoa by Black Rob, which was awesome. The soundtrack on this is great, although it really fades out in episode 4 as the Yankees are not winning as much. They showed the Timo Perez play in Game 1 of the World Series, which I was glad, because that is a very underrated play. Almost as good as the flip play, I feel like. Very underrated in that series. The Clemens bat ball, the Clemens throwing the bat at Piazza. They talked about Clemens still saying that he thought it was a ball, which is ridiculous. Jeter, when he talked about beating the Mets, he was like, "Hey, they're just the Mets. We knew we were going to beat them because they're just the Mets." It's just savage. And also I enjoyed the us being reminded of the Who Let the Dogs Out being played live at Shea Stadium in 2000, which is about the most 2000 thing you could have. Yankees win that World Series, and yeah, that was just awesome to see that, as the Yankees are on top of the baseball world. Then we get to episode 4. They talk about 9/11, the immediate aftermath of that. This was the one part of the documentary I didn't really enjoy, because I don't really like reliving 9/11. They show the Yankees coming back from that. The flip play, it was great seeing that broken down again. It's just so awesome. And the Game 5 of that series has the original Jeter diving into the stands, which he just falls into it, which was nice seeing that, because that's underrated. Then it cuts to the 2001 World Series after they beat the Mariners. We see the Jeter home run in Game 4 where he talks about how difficult that was for him because he did not like sidearm pitchers. So it was kind of a miracle that he hit that home run. I wish Scott Brosius was interviewed in this documentary. That was the one thing that I took away from this. I wanted to hear Scott Brosius because he had a big part in Game 5, but for some reason he's not there. Then he also, the documentary, everybody's talking about, even Jeter is talking about how confident everybody was in Mariano. When Mariano took the mound in the 9th inning in Game 7, everybody thought that the Yankees were going to win. Jeter's talking about how he's thinking when Mariano's on the mound, what he's going to say to the reporters afterwards. We just won 4 World Series. What's he going to say? It's crazy that Jeter, who's usually this guy, one inning at a time, one game at a time, he's thinking this is over. And of course the Yankees lose that. Jeter's talking about how depressed he was that entire offseason, how brutal that was on him. Also, that's when we got the Michael Jordan appearance in the doc. We know that Jordan and Jeter have a relationship. I didn't know if you were going to get Jordan in here, but even if it was just for a little while, seeing Jordan in this doc, it's awesome. I also loved finding out that George was so upset they lost 2001. He basically took over from Cashman after that. He's like, Cashman, your way doesn't work. Even though we've just won 3 World Championships in a row, we lost 1 World Series. Now we're blowing everything up, and I'm wondering how different Yankee history could have been. Could the dynasty have gone on longer if George had just gone, all right, Cashman, we'll give you another year. That didn't go well. Let's try doing it again. But George took over, and the 2002 team was a weird mismatch. They're talking about how Jeter and the boss had a fight, because Jeter's partying habits, and they showed the Visa commercial, which I thought was great. A hilarious story about how Jeter went out on the town until like 3:45, and the next day he gets a call from saying the boss wants to talk to you, and the boss names him captain, which is one of the great George Steinbrenner stories. So weird that that's the time he chose. And then the end of the documentary is really talking about, 2 things. One, the Yankees-Red Sox feud, which was just an awesome rivalry. I think the peak of baseball hatred. I was so honored, happy to live through that. It was such a great time seeing those 2 teams just go at it, and just the pure hatred they had for each other. And we saw the Don Zimmer, Pedro Martinez thing, which I saw live as a 5-year-old, one of the great things I've ever seen. Aaron Boone hits the walk-off home run. There's the great quote from Randy Levine. He goes, "Take that, you 1918 pieces of S." I was hilarious that, I don't know who said that quote, or who said that Randy Levine said that, but I never thought of Randy Levine as the kind of guy who would say that, but that was hilarious. And they're also talking about the Yankees. Maybe they weren't prepared for the series against the Marlins. The Marlins kind of stuck up on them because they were so into the Red Sox. They were so into the Yankees. They were so into the Red Sox that it kind of took them out of them against the Marlins. Although I would also point out the next year, the Red Sox also won an emotional series against the Yankees, and they swept the Cardinals. So it's not a good enough excuse. Also found out that the A-Rod getting traded story started off when they were at a awards banquet. He was at an award banquet next to Cashman, and they had a couple of drinks, and Cashman was like, "Hey, it's a shame you won't move to third base because we'd love to have you in pinstripes." And that's how the whole thing started. George going up, calling Jeter and saying, "Do you have a problem with this?" And Jeter said no, mainly because we need a third baseman. He said he wasn't happy. He said it wasn't true that he wasn't happy at the press conference, although I really don't believe that. And then, the 2 admitting that they had a problem with each other in those first couple months, which we all knew. And apparently the funny story about how, or the kind of interesting story how it's April, there's a rain delay, and Jeter and A-Rod are talking to each other on the bench. They're the only 2 people in the dugout, and Jeter's just asking A-Rod, "Why'd you come here?" I wouldn't be the kind of guy who would trade all my, change positions at this point in my career. But A-Rod was like, "No, I'm okay with it. I wanted to be a Yankee, and I was ready to do this because, I know you're the captain. I didn't want to." I just thought that was really interesting to hear that from A-Rod, because he came across a little bit better in this than I thought. A-Rod talking about, I was willing to do this for Jeter, and Jeter admitting that he gave him credit for that. And then it ends with the flip game. So those are all the things that happened in this documentary. Really, really fascinating stuff. Really interesting. So many great nuggets in here. The Jeter A-Rod stuff, that's going to be the highlight. But hearing them for the first time break down what went wrong in their relationship, that was really cool. And yeah, just all the things that happened in between was just brilliant. The soundtrack wasn't as good in this one, considering how because now we're in that depressing part of the Yankees dynasty. We're in the second half. We're in the Goodfellas portion, the Goodfellas second half portion of the Yankees dynasty, and so we're not hearing as much music. But just seeing it all put together, it was really well done. Really enjoyed a lot of it, and yeah, just a lot of great moments in here. But the Jeter and A-Rod stuff's going to get the most play. But have thoroughly enjoyed this documentary and cannot wait for episode 5, which I guess will go into the blown 3-0 lead, which, man, it's going to be rough to watch. Watching the Diamondbacks come back against the Yankees, that was tough to watch again. I know I was 3 years old, but man, I still can't get over that. Just, brutal. But besides that, it was fun, though, seeing the 99 and 2000 Yankees. Really enjoyed watching those championships again. And really enjoyed watching this documentary. It has been a treat. Cannot wait to see what else happens. That's it for now, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will be back tomorrow for more videos. Take care, and God bless.